I guess I have at this moment the most difficult task of the last 4 days, and that is to try to create a synthesis of everything that has been said. That I am afraid to tell you that is an impossible task at this moment. However, I would like, in a very special way, to convey to you all the gratitude of our Holy Father, Pope Francis, who asked that I especially thank all of you who have dedicated so much time, and above all, have dedicated your own ideas, your own experiences in this pastoral ministry dedicated to marriage and the family. The Holy Father considers this to be an essential part of our life, our work here in Rome, and that is the work of the Dicastery, which is to gather all the information and all the ideas and all the pastoral practices from around the world and to convey them to others in other parts of the world. It is essential that we begin this process of synodality within the church, where it is not somebody like myself or Gabriella here beside me or any of the staff or Father Alexander who sit here and decide what's best to do. We do that only and after listening to each and every one of you. We have tried in these days to listen in order to follow up on that third section of every synod, that is the practical application, and to listen to those who implement the pastoral practice among married and family life. The precise scope of this pastoral year that Pope Francis has dedicated to the family is a more incisive actualization of this third phrase of listening and of discerning. I am certain that these days have borne much fruit in shaping your understanding of how the missionary conversion to which we are called in marriage and family life ministry can be concretely realized in our own specific realities. Missionary, and when we speak of missionary, we mean that sense of going out beyond our own comfort zone, of speaking just to those who are around us. It means in our parishes, in our churches, to go beyond the doors of our churches and to communicate and interact with those couples in marriage life ministry, those families that have perhaps separated themselves from the life of the church and the parish. We need missionaries who will go out beyond the doors of our churches, the confines of our parish church, and to go in search. As Jesus himself in the gospel said, we have to go out into the highways and to the byways and there search out the people who most need to hear this word. Amoris Laetitia is a text that is truly rich in its practical directives, but is rich above all in its theological, ecclesiological, and pastoral suggestions. Amoris Laetitia stimulates us to be more courageous and creative in developing new initiatives to address the many challenges that face newly married couples. It is our mission to bring the Word of God and to bring our pastoral ministry to those families. We must always remember and keep in mind that the fundamental principles of our faith are constant, but the practical application of those principles changes with time and changes in our different cultures that around the world. To make the text of Amoris Laetitia known is already of great importance and of great service in itself, which we all need to offer in order to accompany and give spiritual content to our families. Families must know that the church is made up of us all together, and each one of us as individuals and individual families is called to a vigorous apostolic effort to evangelize the new generations with a living and incarnate witness to the love of Christ. The church must listen to the inspirations of the Holy Spirit and seek to bring the high ideal of Christian living into family relations while simultaneously having its feet firmly planted on the ground. Always being aware of the concrete difficulties in which families live each and every day. Nothing can be taken for granted in family pastoral ministry. We need to rethink, to plan, and to act together as lay people and pastors in the realization of that synodal path of which Pope Francis has spoken of from the very first day of his pontificate. These 4 days we have spent together can be considered the beginning of this process as far as pastoral ministry of marriage and family life is concerned. Pope Francis speaks to us and invites us once again to continue this process, not only on an international level, but to introduce it also into our parishes and our dioceses. We must also take into consideration the importance of not being afraid of the challenges that the world presents to family life, to marriage in today. We should, like Christ himself, we should be open to listening and to carefully bringing people along together so that they may come to know what is truly the word of Christ and what it means to be a Christian. With this in mind, I would like to share with you just a few points that struck me as I listened to many of the things that you had to say during these 4 days. I think the first thing I would say is we need to read very carefully chapter 6 of the Apostolic Exhortation. It contains the criteria that we must use in our ministry. The first point I would like to make is that so much is already being done. I was truly surprised and amazed by some of the witnesses that spoke to what takes place in different parts of the world. The church is alive and well, and pastoral ministry, marriage ministry, and family life ministry is extremely active in the life of the church today. The second point I would like to make is that we need to pay particular attention to what Pope Francis says in Amoris Laetitia number 200 to approximately 210. We need to speak to the importance of families themselves being ministers of the Word of God and being preaching and caring for other families. Our evangelization depends on those married couples and those families who come to assimilate and to know what our ministry is about and what the importance of family life means for the church and for the society in general. The formation of people who can and are willing to accompany couples in the preparation for marriage must be a priority for every parish and every diocese across the world. The formation of married couples so that they can guide other couples is essential if the church is to continue to minister to families and to married couples. Spouses who once formed can provide for the formation of other spouses and other families. The objective here, of course, is to create a chain of formators who, in agreement with their pastors, can reach out to large numbers of married couples. To limit ourselves, as we may have the temptation to do, to small, stagnant groups of couples who collaborate with our parishes closes our pastoral care to dynamic and efficacious action that requires constant renewal. New spouses that are ready to be formed and collaborate with the parish can always be found, even if via associations or movements or new communities. Only by forming families and young people can we try to renew family pastoral care and make sure that young people are able to live out their desire for family that we so often speak about. Together with pastoral care that is specifically dedicated to families, there is a need in our church today, certainly for a more adequate formation of priests, deacons, religious, catechists, and other agents of pastoral care. Ordained ministers often lack a formation that has properly prepared them to deal with the many complex issues that we have spoken about during these days. The presence of lay people, of women and married couples in priestly formation favors the complementarity of the various vocations within the church. It is therefore important that families accompany the whole process of seminary formation and the formation of priests, so that they might help to fortify it in a realistic way. These are the words of Pope Francis in the Apostolic Exhortation number 203. Pastoral care for families has to be fundamentally missionary, as I have already spoken about. Pope Francis speaks at length about this in Amoris Laetitia 230. Particular attention must be given to families in marital crisis or other kinds of difficulties. What is urgently needed today is a ministry which cares for those whose marital relationship have broken down. Special discernment is indispensable for the pastoral care of those who are separated, divorced, or abandoned. Pastoral care must necessarily include efforts at reconciliation and mediation through the establishment of specialized counseling centers in dioceses, especially when children are involved, ensuring that every action is taken in the best interest of minors. At the same time, divorced people who have not remarried and often bear witness to marital fidelity ought to be encouraged. The local community and pastors should accompany these people with solicitude, particularly when children are involved or when they are in serious financial difficulty. Amoris Laetitia 242. Particular attention also should be given to divorced parents who live in new unions in order to accompany them. It is not only the couple aspect that needs to be taken care of, but in these cases, the educational relationship with children, which can become quite problematic. Pope Francis speaks about that in number 246. We need pastoral endeavors that reach out to those families who are far from the church, even those situations that are not in full conformity with the directives of Catholic moral teaching, or which might experience the difficult realities of any kind of division or misfortune. Dear brothers and sisters, we represent, all of us together, the universal church. And this representation must continue to move forward, working in a constant and united way. We would like to call for the development of stable relationships between those of us who work here at the Holy See and you at Episcopal conferences, movements, and association, but also among yourselves in a spirit of authentic communion and reciprocal esteem. What this means practically is working together, sharing ideas and projects, and being more effective together on a practical level in order to get to the real heart of this whole enterprise that is marriage and the family. The desire, need, and gratitude for direct contact between those in charge of familial pastoral care has already emerged in numerous encounters we have already had with Episcopal conferences. These relationships help us also to circulate information and not to feel alone in times of difficulties, which will inevitably occur. Once again, I thank all of you. Then, and I invite you all to continue this synodal process with families on the local level to better understand how to realize and receive the many treasures that have emerged in these days and that each of you have picked up on in different ways, adapting them to your own geographical and cultural realities. Our dicastery will of course make available in the next few weeks the various texts that have been presented. The Amoris Laetitia Family Year will continue, but it is in the hands of each one of us. We entrust the fruits of this meeting to the Blessed Virgin Mary and to Saint Joseph, so that it might generate within us the desire to journey on together as a church in the renewal of family pastoral care and to involve many other brothers and sisters in this extraordinary task of evangelization of families that the Lord has entrusted to us. Thank you, and God bless you all.